Shivaya Sada Shiva, Shiva Shiva Mahadeva, Namah Shivaya Sada Shiva. Kali Mahakali Namah Kalika Namo Namah Kali Kali Mahakali Namah Kalika Namo Namah.
Om Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadati Kaman Tamatmastam Yenu Pashanti Diraha Tesham Shanti Shashvati Netresham. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. That one, the eternal among non-eternal things, the intelligence of the most intelligent ones, who, though ever one, nevertheless fulfills the desires of the many. The wise ones realize that one is dwelling in their very self. To them belong peace, and to none else. Om peace, peace, peace. Om Hiranmaye Parevra Koshevarajan Brahmanishkalam Tachu Brahm Jyotisham Jyoti Tadyadatma Vidho Vidduhu. Shining like burnished gold, highest and deepest, the core intelligence of living beings, partless and indivisible, free of any taint, the essence of everything which all beings seek, knowingly or unknowingly, there shines Brahman. It is that which the Guru teaches. It is that which the wise ones exult in. Om peace, peace, peace. Om Sahana, Om Sahana Vavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karvavahai, Tejasvi Navaditamastu, Ma Vidvishovahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May Brahman, the reality, protect us. May Brahman sustain us. May Brahman illumine our thinking process. May we not find fault with each other, with the world, or with the teachings. And may what we study be a source of inspiration to us eternally. Om peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, and may peace be unto all. Om Hari Om. So welcome on this fine day in winter, although you wouldn't know it in Hawaii, as we meet for a class, actually 2 classes on a subject called Ananya Bhakti, if you want to know it in Sanskrit, or in English it translates nicely as the devotion of non-separation. And the idea being in scriptures like the Bhagavad Gita that was spoke on the battlefield of Kurukshetra by Sri Krishna to Arjuna, who was in dire circumstances, and all the way up to more current Vedantic times, in the case of Shankara, when he talked about his devotion being devotion to discrimination. And his teacher's teacher, Gaudapada, who talked about the non-touch yoga, to a sparsha yoga that's been taught, the yoga of irreproachableness, the yoga of imperviousness, where nothing can touch that great soul who has found the truth of his existence and who dwells in it. All the way up to present times, in the case of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, the ideal of this ashram, who speaks in terms of non-separation. Actually, there's very few words that we can describe a topic like that with. If you say indivisible, then it infers something that's divided. And so you're kind of at a loss. But in Sanskrit, they have some very beautiful words that don't have any opposite. Like ananda, for instance, bliss. It's not like joy and sorrow or other dualities that you might come across. And that's why so many thousands of beings in the world have named themselves Ananda. There's the story of the man delivering a telegraph message, and he comes amongst a group of swamis, and he said, "This message is for Mr. Ananda. Would Mr. Ananda please stand up?" And they all stood up. So if you found the bliss of your being, you simply call yourself, or you end your name with Ananda. It can be the Ananda of Jnana, it can be the Ananda of Bhakti, as was referred to here. But the term originates with Sri Krishna, ananya bhakti, the devotion of non-separation. So it's a good way of putting together yogas which, previous to this time and by small intellects, were called contrary to one another. Basically, there are four great yogas brought to us by Swami Vivekananda in this day and age, and they are Jnanam, which you are sitting in the midst of right now. The next 3 hours, you and our live streaming audience, welcome by the way, are going to get a transmission of Jnana Yoga from the tradition, from the scriptures, from the seers, and from the Guru. And there's the yoga of bhakti, which is of course devotion. It suits the devotional temperament. There's the yoga of karma, or the active person, which is a very prominent yoga in Swami Vivekananda's mind in this day and age, because everyone does action, so it's a matter of learning how to do right action. And then there's the yoga of meditation, Dhyana Yoga. So those four yogas we know cover the scope of what's called integral yoga, or what's been called synthesis of yoga, or in India, Purna Yoga, the yoga of fullness. But as I said, along the way there have been some thinkers, or maybe non-thinkers, who have tried to compartmentalize these and cause a breach between them. In other words, the yoga of separation. And it would seem then that action and inaction are contrary to one another. The yoga of meditation and the yoga of action can't come together somehow. But that's not how I found my teacher. He was living in a state of action in inaction all the time. Then also, like the two wings of a bird, he used to say, you have jnana and bhakti, that is devotion and wisdom, and these factions and the people who support them have been warring against each other for time out of mind, as if it's not the case that you love what you know and you know what you love. So basically, knowledge and devotion come together like two wings of a bird, and if you follow the spiritual path to its summit, you'll find that jnana is called Brahma Gyan, and bhakti is called Prema Bhakti, and the two become one there at the summit. So, however it may look, in varying ways to people from the outside, when you begin to practice these yogas and try and synthesize them, then you understand that phrase that Krishna used to Arjuna, ananya bhakti. You must practice the yoga of non-separation. In other words, in the yoga of action, you must become one with your work. The yoga of knowledge, one with the scriptures, one with the teachings. And in the yoga of meditation, not so hard to do if you have the right practice and the right perspective, is to become one with Brahman, or one with your highest consciousness, where, as Tantra says, the jiva is Shiva, or the embodied being has become divine reality. I am that, if you want to put it in an English way. I'm saying, Tat Tvamasi, that thou art. And of course, in the devotion of bhakti, it's quite easy also to assume that position of oneness with your beloved. There are cases of many devotees who have done that with their gurus, with their ishtams, that is, their chosen ideals. And probably Hanuman put it best when he was talking in terms of how he saw Ram, his beloved. Sometimes he saw him as a friend, and they would sing and dance together. And other times he would see himself as a part of Ram. And then other times he'd see him as one with Ram. He would see no difference between Ram and him. So these three levels of consciousness are experienced by people who practice the yoga of non-separation. It's a matter of any other good Triputi or triple teaching in India, of which there are dozens and dozens. That one is based upon your outer consciousness, your inner consciousness, and your transcendent consciousness. So good yogis and yoginis can move between these levels of consciousness at will, with ease, without finding any contrariness there, as if everything is one mass of pure conscious awareness. Chitgana is the Sanskrit term, one mass of indeterminable, indivisible conscious awareness. So that's the standpoint that I must take when I present the subject of non-separation, devotion of non-separation to you in these next two classes, one this Sunday and one next Sunday. As we are just back from India, a group of 14 of us, and this is our first live streaming event, except for last Tuesday's satsang. Then we will now go back online and have Sunday classes, not only here next Sunday, but in Portland, Oregon, and in San Francisco for a month. And we ask you all to look at your appropriate time zone and tune in with us at that time so that you can experience this flow of Jnana Yoga mixed with Bhakti Yoga, and then take it into the yoga of meditation in your own shrine, in your own home. And also take it out into the world and make it manifest, express it in the yoga of karma, in the yoga of action. So when we approach a subject like this, then it's good to start from, there are a few good English words to describe it, the innate oneness of all things, or the intrinsic unity, the homogeneity of everything, where there was no separation to begin with. So basically what we're working with here is a mind-body mechanism, as Vedanta calls it, or a psychophysical being that has limitations to it. Consciousness doesn't have those limitations. So when it identifies, as Vedanta says, with the five sheaths, the matter, energy, mind, intellect, and ego, those are five coverings as far as Vedanta is concerned. Those are not the real self. The real self is free of overlays, superimpositions, sublations, conditionings. They've borrowed a host of English words to try and explain that, both in Buddhism and in Vedanta, which are verily pretty much the same thing. So when these superimpositions present themselves to the human being, to the soul, to the jiva, the embodied soul, then they come to know that they're working under certain limitations that have come about simply by taking on the body. It's a question that's maybe remains unanswered to most people, whether or not one should be embodied. They asked Swami Vivekananda that question, should a man be reborn? And he said, I certainly hope he will not until he can do so in full consciousness. So all around us in this world, at least, we see the ramifications of people being born bereft of their consciousness. They're very unconscious, or very mindless, or very restless, or very fragmented, or very sick, very violent. And so these wayward minds, the illumined soul moves to try and heal. And it has to start out on the level of salubriousness. See, it means to heal something. To be salubrious is to be healed. And then it has to move to the spiritual, and once it understands the spiritual level things, it can become sempiternal, salubrious, and then spiritual, and then sempiternal. Sempiternal means everlasting, a nice word in English. I have looked through the dictionary several times to call out certain words that aren't used anymore and try and put them into the spiritual field so that we can get a sort of Sanskrit-like feel, because if you know anything about Sanskrit, Deva Bhashya, the language of the gods, then you know that there are words there that you never find in English that suggest some very profound and powerful things and can throw you into very deep meditations simply by pondering a word. What's in a word, they say? Try learning a little Sanskrit and you'll find out. You'll begin to unwrap levels and levels and levels. Science has been doing that with objects and atoms and molecules and protons and quarks and neutrons and subatomic particles. They've unwrapped the object down to its non-existence. But the seer takes an opposite trajectory and goes within and begins to unwrap the word, meaning. Not just the intellectual meaning, as science has done with objects, but a very subtle meaning, something that's inferred, that's of a spiritual nature, and which, when pondered long enough and deep enough, throws the mind into a state of consciousness that's indescribable. They have words for it, like Kaivalya. Father of Yoga used Kaivalya. And asampragyata samadhi, seedless samadhi, conditionless samadhi, nirvikalpa samadhi, satori, beatific vision, if you will, fana in Islam. There are so many words in so many different religions that are used to point to this state of consciousness, which is attained simply by meditating upon a word inside of your mind. Call it a mantra, if you will. A mantra is a set of words, a set of bijams that are put together to evoke a very powerful alchemical effect in the mind. Throw it into samadhi. Hopefully a samadhi of a non-dual state where the person experiencing it knows without a doubt that he's not a form anymore. Essentially, when form, name, and cause and effect got going, time, space, and causality, then that's where all the problems begin. In case in point, when you go into deep sleep, you have none of those problems. In waking and dreaming, you do. And even bliss in dream is a problem, isn't it? Because it goes away. But in deep sleep, you know nothing but an indeterminable mass of pure conscious awareness. And when you're yanked out of it into the dream state or into the waking state, then you've lost that. 10 minutes of deep sleep will put a person into a very restful repose for 24 hours, but 8 hours of dreaming will run them ragged. It won't be the same. So this deep sleep is a prime example of what happens to a person when they realize that their nature is formless. And this is what every great prophet, messenger, avatar, yogi, seer, sage, saint, borrow a bunch of other words for illumined souls from any language. This is what they've all been trying to tell us, and it's what they actually epitomize when they're on earth in the body. They're standing in front of you in a body saying, "Are you sure you want to be here?" And you ask them, "Yeah, can you tell me the meaning of life?" And they say, "Yes, the meaning of life is never to be born again." You know, because Buddhism and Vedanta don't make any bones about it. They want you up and out of the body. They want you out of form. And the only justification or change to that stance, that non-dual stance, is, can you be born in pure conscious awareness? That is, really, they're saying, can you be born but not be born at all? There's a word for it in Sanskrit. It's called ajati. Jati means birth and genus and so forth. So those who follow ajati vada are those who are on the path of the birthless, deathless ones. Even when they're in the body, they know they were never born. That's why you have such beautiful songs and bhajans and stotrams in India. Namrityur na shanka, name jati beda, pita naiva me naiva, mata janmaha. Chirananda rupaha, Shivoham, Shivoham. Om. What's he saying? Why did he take so much time to craft his beautiful stotram in Sanskrit some 1300 years ago so that we could sit here today and ponder its meaning? He's saying, Namrichor, I have no death. I have no birth. Pita Naiva, I have no father. Mata Majanma, I have no mother. I am Chidananda, I am the pure bliss of consciousness. Shivaham, Shivaham, I am Shiva, I am Shiva. So, without any doubt, straightforward, without any affectation, and even without hardly any variance in melody or without any rhythm, he just states it to you right out the gate. The yogi is unborn, even when you find them in a body. There are those who are following the path of the unborn. They practice the non-touch yoga. That is, birth, life, death, fear can never find them. The gods of karma, action, the gods of kama, desire, the god of cause and effect may go looking for souls like that, but they'll never find them. They're not to be found. Because they realize that the Atman is indivisible and they have an abiding devotion to that. That's devotion to non-duality. Who would have thunk, as they say, that bhakti and jnanam could coexist so nicely together? Before you start casting aspersions at the various yogas and the different lineages and the different religions and so forth, try the yoga of non-separation. Try understanding Advaita Vedanta or Zen Buddhism. Try understanding the non-dual part of Judaism, the non-dual part of Islam. And see, when you put that on, if it just doesn't fit with everything you've ever believed, everything that you have faith in, everything that moves you, and which moves the mind to higher states of consciousness, in one vault. See? And if it doesn't wear too smoothly and too easily at the beginning, then take it by stages. This is what the Adara system's about. See, you have 5 coverings. Like here at the altar, there's a kosha, you see. Kosha is a container for something. Well, these coverings are containers for consciousness. They're not consciousness itself. So you could say something to a beginning aspirant, you're not the body, as you often hear that, but does that really get to them, get through to them philosophically? What if you were to show the different layers of one's consciousness? See, the body is called the anamaya kosha, because ana means food, and it's full of food. It lives by food. It dies without food. When it dies, it becomes food for other beings, insects, fire, animals. And then inside of that, just like little Russian dolls back inside of one another, there's another part to your consciousness, your non-self. Shankara called it very unforgivingly. It's called the pranamaya kosha, the body of energy, not kinetic energy, not electric energy. Haven't you heard, man does not live by bread alone? What was he trying to say when he said that? See, there's another energy that's subtle, that's unseen. All, again, in different traditions, in different lands, there are different words for it. Chi, prana. Here in Hawaii, you could call it mana, for instance. It's an unseen energy that flows. It's what causes the eye to see, the ear to hear, the tongue to taste, the heart to beat involuntarily, the eyes to blink without knowing it. Causes your breathing process to go on 240,000 times a day and half that at night in deep sleep. It's flowing everywhere at all times. But it waxes and it wanes. Have you noticed in the old people, like me? Prana waxes and wanes, so it cannot be the self, which is immovable, which does not flow. Say, get with the flow, You can't use that mantra when you're becoming one with Brahman. You get out of the flow. And you become the supreme stable self, which is immovable and all-pervasive. People are so preoccupied with asana nowadays. How many positions can I learn and get into? I'm trying to find a way to get them out of their preoccupation with hatha yoga and get them onto the path. Someone told me the other day, and I thank them very much for saying it, I think hatha yoga will get everyone into the 8 limbs of yoga. And I told them, the 8 limbs of yoga are failing to get people into the 8 limbs of yoga. You think hatha will? What you want is a different kind of asana. You want a mental asana. It's a perspective the mind takes. Probably one of the very best asanas you could adapt, if you could manage it, would be Ayamatma Brahma asana. Ayamatma Brahma is one of the 4 greatest sayings in Indian philosophy and religion. It means this self is Brahman. This self is not the 5 koshas. This self is Brahman, and Brahman is connecting one to the Atman, you see. Indivisible, though consisting of many parts. All pervasive, though separating into many bodies. I'm quoting from the Hasta Amalaka Stotram now. Beautiful, another beautiful way of saying, you see, these very same truths. He says, Hasta Amalaka, one of Shankara's great disciples, he said, Ganachana dristir ganachana markam yatha nishprabham manyate chati mudaha tata bhavad patiyo mudi drishte sa nichopalabdis swarupanam atman. Says he's describing the phenomena of false superimposition, the overlays of relativity over reality. He says when the naive and the ignorant see clouds, they think the sun has expired. When night falls, they imagine that the sun has stopped shining, has gone away, has burned itself out. But always there, the sun, shining, no matter what superimpositions may cross in front of it. And if that's true of the sun, then it's that much more true of Brahman, the reality. All is Brahman, and thou art that. What would cause someone to compose lyrics like that, short of having the direct experience of them? Is it something you can conjure up in your imagination? Some sort of sankalpic flight of fancy? No. He has 12 verses like that. So, it's much like the man who, wearing glasses, walks into a steam room, you see, and all of a sudden his vision is distorted. He's all blurry. So he just takes his glasses off and he wipes them and puts them back on and he can see clearly again. Consciousness never suffers sublations, never suffers overlays. That's why Christ said, resist not evil, because he knew evil was illusory. You don't give it energy by declaring it to be real. You show it up to be false. So this intellect that we're presently encumbered with is like that fogged up pair of glasses. See? We're going to have to take it, we're going to have to clean it, wipe it down so that we can see reality again. Because the intelligence is the nature of reality. They don't call it Sat Chit Ananda for nothing. Chit is that intelligence. Sat is the truth of existence, and Nanda is the bliss that comes from putting those two together and living in realization. Nothing is worth losing that. The only thing that comes penultimate to that is your peace of mind, so keep your peace of mind, and if all else goes, at least keep your peace of mind. Holy Mother said that. My Guru's Guru, Sri Sharda Devi, said, never lose your peace of mind. You need peace of mind first and foremost. So let job go, let money go, let family go, let it all go if it has to, but keep your peace of mind. Because you'll have to use this mind to get to Brahman. The animals can't get to Brahman, the insects can't get to Brahman, the plants can't get to Brahman. Human beings realize themselves as one with Brahman. Those who realize Brahman become Brahman. It's stated in the Upanishads. But back to what I was saying, there is not one mention of Hatha Yoga in the Upanishads. Not a glimpse or a trace of mention of it in the Bhagavad Gita. Nothing about it in the Brahma Sutras. Nothing about it in the Avatutta Gita. Nothing about it in the Ashtavakra Samhita. So, go beyond this outer core of body, see, Annamaya Kosha, that which exists by food and dies by food, and get into that area of subtle energy, which is a missing link in our culture's present-day understanding. We don't know about prana. So if we find this pranic link, you can find it through your breathing process, you can find it through meditation, which is the best way, through practice, then you can connect that up with the Manomaya Kosha. That's this third level, mind. You know, this is what we call our target charts, you see. Target charts. There are 3 of them. One is for time, one's for space, and one's for causality. So if you're talking about the devotion of non-separation, then you must understand non-separation, right? You have to understand something before you love it. The mistake is being made over and over and over again in people's relationships, that they try and love somebody without understanding them. It's the other way around. Thought is father to the deed. See? At least we had that right in the West. First understanding, then love, then true love. But it's all going cart before the horse, you see. People talk about the heart, the heart. There is no heart in my tradition. The heart is here in the mind. Because when people talk about the heart, they're talking about emotions. And those exist in the mind. There's an anatomical heart, but you wouldn't want to be one with that. So heart to us is here, is Atman, it's the core, it's the center of everything. That's the true heart. That's true existence. And that's pure love, and it's pure knowledge. Satchidananda. So when that is approached and realized, then it's easy to slough off these coverings and live in a non-dual state. Let Maya come, let it go. Let body come, let it go. Or let karma float it away, Vivekananda says. I just know my stable, immovable, indivisible, all-pervasive self. And I'm content with that. So if one moves into penetration of these false superimpositions, the Sanskrit word is vivarta. Sometimes they use adhyasa. Penetration of these false Mayic superimpositions, then one can get to this Vijnanamaya Kosha, the sheath of intellect. This is where it starts getting good. You see, in the mind alone, if it's not accompanied by pure intellect, that intellect which has wiped off its glasses of fog and can see clearly, then you've got what's called duality. The mind is responsible for conjuring up all sorts of dualities. Krishna calls them dvandva mohina, the deluding pairs of opposites in the Gita. Good and bad, pleasure and pain, life and death, virtue and vice, loss and gain. Everywhere you look, these deluding pairs of opposites are rising up and distracting you. From what? Well, from living a peaceful dharmic life, yes, but from seeing your true self, even worse. Dharmic life is good, divine life is better, but no life or eternal life is best of all. Because there I don't get born and I don't die. That's what eternal life is about, you see. The coming and going does not affect me. As well it should not. I should be impervious to it. Asparsha yoga. I'm practicing the yoga of imperviousness. Why not? In the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, there's a yoga for depression. It's called Vishada Yoga. Arjuna is smack dab in the middle of it. And by the third or fourth chapter, Krishna is adeptly lifting him out of the yoga of depression. How does he do it? In the second chapter, he does it by the yoga of varieties. Samkhya Yoga. Samkhya Yoga teaches about the division between Purusha and Prakriti, the soul and nature. There's a division. You have to know the difference. That's why Kapila told us through his students, some of the early Samkhya Acharyas, Prakriti is like a dancing girl who presents herself and displays herself in front of an audience of onlookers, dances for a while, and then disappears off the stage. So nature comes in front of the soul, parades itself, displays itself. That's Samkhya, that's variety, in all its multiplicity, you see, all its diversity, all its variety. You know what Tantra calls that? Mada Moha, you see. It's deluding and it drives one mad after a while. When you look around the world, do you see a lot of insane people now? Do you believe insanity? I've just been around most of the world last month. It's insane everywhere. People are enacting insanity. They're not themselves. I'm not even talking about their real self. They're not even their virtuous self. It would be nice if they could stay in contact with their virtuous self, at least, with their dharmic self. So when one begins to lose touch with their intelligence, with their mind, and the dualities start to insinuate themselves upon consciousness, then the whole thing is going to hell in a handbasket. Nice term, nice phrase. So one needs to continually be honing that intellect. That's the goad that will penetrate through Maya. Ego won't do it, mind won't do it. It needs to be the intelligence. If the ego gets attenuated by the intelligence, and if the mind gets rendered non-dual by intelligence, then those mechanisms become united. That's called the antakarana, the inner cause of everything. The realization you get from uniting thought, chitta, mind, manas, intelligence, buddhi, and ahamkara, ego, into one composite package is the yoga of non-separation. This is what we're talking about. When the mind is what it should be, they call it in Buddhism, for instance, Buddha mind, or original mind. When the mind is what it should be, then the I has been made single, right? The I has been made single. And when you have a single I, then you have an eye of wisdom called Jnana Chakshu. Jnana Chakshu, mentions of the single eye have been found by this humble researcher in about 5 or 6 different religions. There you see, Christianity, if thine eye be single, thou shalt know the truth. Hinduism, they who perceive with the eye of wisdom, they truly see. Devoting themselves to wisdom, they are neither born at the time of creation, nor do they die at the time of dissolution. Birthless, deathless. Not given to the idea of the illusion of death. Not born in ignorance. Buddhism, Lord Buddha said, I have the true Dharma hidden in my wisdom eye. So Christ, Buddha, Krishna, are they saying anything different? In Taoism, Lao Tzu says, the eyes are the windows to the soul. Between the two windows is the main door to divinity. Enter there to discover your inner divine nature. You would have to then adopt the meditation yoga, wouldn't you? Dhyan yoga. You'd have to sit, make that eye single. Open up that sixth chakra. Watch that lotus bloom. And rest there in bliss. Gnosticism. We have a Gnostic minister here in Paravasta who is joining us today. Gnosticism says, the true gate is also the door to one's divine nature. It is the front door to heaven. It is located neither left nor right, up nor down. It is right in the center. And thus it is called the door to divinity, or the white sun. Some of the early Christian mystics called it the white dove ascending. The white dove ascending. Confucianism said, 3 persons are walking together. Who is the master? They all have 2 eyes, but the divine third eye is the master of all 6 of them. So, no matter where you go, and I'd have to say in Eastern religion, because really there is no Western religion, all from the East. Sun rises in the East. Luckily for us, it sets in the West. But we have to be able to greet it in the West. We have to be able to see it. Not a matter of just watching a pretty sunset. Because then night comes, dissolution comes, darkness comes, cold comes, death comes. So we need to dance in death's wisdom rays. Dance the wisdom dance. That third eye is like death. This is the last vestige of form you will see before you disappear here. See? These words I'm speaking are the last words you'll hear. And when you hear them in the right way, you will give up all of these sheaths, including this 5th one called the Anandamaya Kosha. It's even named after bliss. It's your ego. It's the bliss of the separate I. In fact, Lord Vashishta called it the separate I maker. There is no separate I. What nonsense, but there it is, creating a schism. Sri Ramakrishna said, like a line drawn on water, making one body of water appear 2. At least that's the way of it with the wisdom seers. For the ignorant people, it's more like a stick dropped on water. It's not going to dissolve after a few seconds. That illusion of 2-ness or manyness is going to persist in them through their whole life, maybe for lifetimes. They'll be born and they'll die, which never happens to the soul. So there's problem number 1. But then when they are born and when they do die, they'll keep being born and dying in that root ignorance, mula vidya. The cloud of unknowing will be thick in them from the cradle to the grave. So my teacher used to say, you must make fear afraid of itself. You must make doubt itself. And you must put death in its own grave. He was about 92 when he said that to me. And his eye had opened. He lived in a non-dual state all the time. We saw that about him. We didn't understand it at first, but after we spent time with him, and we understood that he lived in a non-dual state all the time. So we talk about the awakening of consciousness. Consciousness never awakens. We talk about the transformation of awareness. There's no transformation in Brahman. Your kids don't grow up. You don't die. The soul doesn't come and go from heaven to earth to hell. Consciousness doesn't accept those fallacies. You cannot convince in the high court of non-dualism the judge, you see, of the existence of death or fault or blame or sin or evil or even goodness or altruism. It's untouched. when you talk about the devotion of non-separation, I might as well have gotten on camera and said, I'm going to speak about the devotion of non-separation now, and then not said another word for the next 3 hours. Just went into it. And that's precisely what happened with Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. They used to be in front of him and they'd say, tell us what happens to you in non-dual samadhi, we want to know. And he'd say, well, all right, I'll tell you. And he was gone. And he'd come back an hour later and say, can you finish that sentence, Susie? So once he actually was able to finish it, he said, it's like a salt doll walking in an ocean. So you can probably get the inference from those few words. I feel like a salt doll walking into an ocean. In other words, at first, he thought the ocean could be measured. And he'd be the first to come back and tell everyone how deep it was. Not going to happen. You dissolve there into your formless nature, the Atman, into Buddha nature, into Tathagata Garbha, into Kaivalya, into Mukti, into Moksha. And there's nothing left to come back to tell anyone anything. That's the devotion of non-separation. If I'm able to come back and tell you about it, it's because I'm dwelling here, not here. If I start to dwell here, bye-bye to words, you see. And if my consciousness, by the grace of the Divine Mother, rises to the crown chakra, then have no hope for me forevermore. I'm gone and I'm gone forever. That's a line in a song by Ramprasad Sen, the poet saint of India. Have no hope for me forevermore for the world. I'm gone and I'm gone forever. And he's happy about it. Have you noticed Mother Kali? She holds a severed head. People go, but if you look at the head, it's always smiling. It's like, thank you for removing my ego. You see, this Anandamaya Kosha is a problematic principle. It's one of the cosmic principles, one of the tattvas. It disappears only in the highest samadhi. That sense of I persists, and it ruins your meditation. When you're about to go into a non-dual state, it steps forward and say, pardon me, but I exist. And I need some attention here. So very difficult to pierce through that final kosha. Kosha, again, means a container, or sheath, sometimes they call it. 5 sheaths. So this is Vedanta 101. Vedanta starts here and then ascends. Vedanta starts assuming that you already know that you're not the body-mind mechanism. And so many people come and they go away. It's physical asanas for them. They're going to have to start at the ground and start to work up again all over again. How far will they get? To the breathing exercise? You need to know this much about your breath. That the in-breath is A, the held breath is U, and the out-breath is M. And if you know that much, you can absorb yourself in samadhi. You're speaking the word all the time, with every breath you take. And you speak it less in deep sleep tonight, about half as much. It's called ajapa then. Right now it's called japa because you're doing it on purpose. But ajapa means no japa left. There's no recitation going on anymore. Why? Because the one doing the japa and the japa itself have become one thing. See? The breath is stopped. It's called kumbhaka. And that's the 4th stage of the breath that the hatha yogis never teach you. See? That when you breathe in, there's a kumbhaka. And then when you breathe out, there's another kumbhaka. That is a cessation of breath. Everyone's, little miss run ahead, you see. I want to get on to the next breath, to the next asana. Slow it all down. This universe is a manifestation of your own mind. You have to come to know how you're doing it. They say, know the self, know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. To know the self. In order to know what the self is, you have to know what it's not. People think they can jump from the lowest chakra to the highest chakra, or from the lowest state of worldly consciousness to samadhi. It doesn't work that way. Yes, you are born with it. One of my siblings was born as a master violinist. Another of my siblings was born as a mediocre violinist. Did God bless one and the devil curse the other? Or did one learn this in a previous lifetime? Came out of the womb like this. This was his mudra. People are coming out of the womb nowadays going like this. They're like this. That's their mudra. Mudras are very important. Hand signs, you see, gestures, spiritual gestures, very important. I am Shiva. I'm stable. I'm impervious. I never get frustrated. Emotions just dance across my face. So to become absolutely certain of these truths of existence is to practice the devotion of non-separation. And it becomes less of a practice and more of a state of awareness. It becomes you and you become it. So it's sort of like 7-Up in the old days. It likes you, you like it, right? You drink it, it becomes one with you. But this is the new 7-Up, you see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, up, you see. Let's get the consciousness raised. But hanging out at the 3 lower chakras, where eating, drinking, and sex life is all that goes on. At least raise yourself to this consciousness, because if you get to the heart, that is the Atman, this 4th lotus, then you'll not be born in this earth again, unless you want to do so of your own accord. This is where the devotees are. See? If you come back from this chakra, you'll come back as a lover of God, a saint, a seer. And you'll live your life for the good of others. So, a good way, the Adara system, the 5 Sheaths, of explaining what gets in the way, philosophically speaking, cosmologically speaking, of the realization of the Atman. And this is not the work of a devil. There is no God, there's no devil, there's just you, the great self. And that great self needs to express itself. And it'll take on coverings, you see, take on sheaths, it'll take on overlays, but then it can just as easily slough them off. That's a masterful being. They're actuating what's called lila sankalpa, while others are practicing maya sankalpa. Sankalpa means the projection of the mind of different desires and fantasies, imaginations. You'll borrow from the 5 elements, and you'll borrow from Maya, and you'll borrow from the mind, and you'll conjure up a world for yourself with your fellows. Somewhere, a few hundred years ago, the word America got batted around Maya, and millions of souls said, I like that idea. I think I'll manifest it. And now here we are. It's not the work of God or the devil. Reality is acreate, Vivekananda says. He saw us and he said, wow, what great masters of nature you've become, but you're little babies spiritually. Don't you know that reality is acreate? It doesn't create, it doesn't sustain, and it doesn't destroy. Those are foreign concepts to consciousness. Those concepts are indigenous to Maya, to the mind in Maya, you see. But consciousness is ever formless, pure, perfect, indivisible, timeless, deathless, causeless, absolute, transcendent, all-pervasive. Need I go on? There are plenty of good words in English to infer, at least, to point to what Brahman is. You might not be able to put your finger directly on it, but you can infer it. You know, they say absolute power corrupts absolutely. Absolute proof also, I believe, corrupts. We don't need proof as devotees. Faith is what we need. And faith is the testing ground. Proof makes you conventional. Proof makes you scientific. There's always got to be that, in that quotient, a little uncertainty, a little unsurety, a little push. And it is not called belief. Far beyond belief is, mere belief is called faith, shraddha. And that doesn't need proof. Shraddha is based upon the ability to concentrate your awareness on reality. The ability to concentrate your awareness on reality is based upon the ability to forbear all ills and evils. And that's based on contentment, and that's based on peace of mind. And that's based on detachment from things that are not real. And that's based upon discrimination between what is real and what isn't real. And what isn't real isn't real. See? Krishna tried to clear that up for Arjuna in the Gita. The unreal never is. The real never ceases to be. The truth about both of these have been realized by the seers. That's a direct quote from the archetypical soul. He who taught Sankhya to Lord Brahma's sons. And after they learned it, they said, the greatest teaching in the world is Sankhya. The greatest power in the world is yoga. And so they put Sankhya and yoga together. And they found out the unreal never exists. The real never ceases to be. The seers have found out the distinction between these two, between nature and spirit, between the sentient and the insentient, between the essential and the non-essential, however you want to put it. Mark that distinction well, because it's the 150th birthday of one of the greatest souls ever to come to earth this year, and he named himself after that self-same discrimination, Swami Vivekananda. Viveka means knowing the difference between the real and the unreal. It's the beginning of spiritual life, my friends. Dancing and singing, food faddism, hatha yoga is not a spiritual life, not even a good beginning. Discrimination between the real and the unreal launches you onto the spiritual path. You transcend religion, and you get far beyond the limitations of morality and ethics. Therefore, you transcend the need to go to heaven or the fear of hell. You find yourself back in your own soul, the one soul that contains all other souls, the indivisible soul, they call it. Brahman, Allah, Almighty Father. Pragyaparam, Buddha called it. Do you think Buddha didn't believe in a God? He didn't specify it. One of his students asked him, so, there is God? He said, did I say there was God? Well, then there isn't God. Did I say there wasn't God? But he himself used two words. Pragyaparam, the supreme intelligence, and Tathagata Garbha. Garbha, the very stuff of consciousness. It's just that you can't put a name on a formless thing. See? It's everywhere. So call it Sarvosmi, in everything. But don't mistake the thing for it. That's discrimination. You can't just, in a New Age fashion, just say, oh yes, it's all Brahman. Ice cream is God. Smoking is God. Everything I do is God. I can just throw everything out. The baby with the bathwater, see. God is not a name, it's not a form, it's not an energy, it's not matter, and it's not thought. That's a good way to put it. So if you're going to practice the devotion of non-discrimination, then you will probably want to understand these three teachings of Ganesh. You see, we used to teach this in early SRV days. By the way, this is the 150th birth centenary of Swami Vivekananda. It's also SRV's 20th birthday. That's how long we've been serving. SRV spells serve. That's how long we've been serving the Western and also other devotees around the world with this Vedantic wisdom that we feel is incomparable. We feel is the death of ignorance. All one needs to do is spend a little time with it. So the way we taught it early on, we said, all right, we've been taught by our teachers, we've spent 20, 30, 40 years in this. How are we going to present it to our fellows? Boil it all down. So we boiled it all down in this triputi. Everything good consists of threes, and everything problematic consists of twos. Dualities. But a triputi leaves an open door. See, waking, dreaming, deep sleep, good, bad, indifferent, life, death, and eternal life. There's an open door to every duality. So you need to think in terms of triputi. So this triputi, which is taught here, is called three different kinds of perspectives that you need to destroy. One is the sense of ownership, that I own anything. You sent me an email last night, in fact, about that. Vivekananda's beautiful saying you had called out. It says, really, monasticism, renunciation, all those things are much, much less about feeling guilty about owning things or not being able to have a good time and so forth, and much, much more about just not possessing anything. Just not holding the asana of possession, you see, in your mind. Your mind has asanas and positions too, see. It has perspectives it can adopt. That's why I said, I am Atma Brahma asana. It'd be, this self is Brahman. This is my mindset, see. This is how I present myself to the world. No compromises anymore. This self is Brahman. And I can prove it philosophically as far as proof will go. And then through my direct experience, I can enter into it because millions of souls have done so. And they've gotten koivalya, and they've gotten free, and they've come back to tell us. So the sense of ownership is the first major hurdle that you want to get over, you see. He says here, I am the doer. My actions are important. I do good to others. These are the signs of an unripe ego. Sri Ramakrishna used to put it, the problem is I, me, and mine. But that problem can be turned positive by saying thou, thee, and thine. So you get rid of the sense of ownership, and by the way, the sense of agency too. Kartritya, it's called there. In that way, he says, pride in one's wealth, in one's learning, and in one's possessions leave a stain on the mind. Wealth, you see. They oftentimes sing beautiful songs about it and put in mind of this beautiful offering which we sing quite often. Written by Kalas, a devotee of Ram.
Japane kyun chor diya Ram naam Japane kyun chor diya Ram Nama Japane kyun chor diya Krodha na chora Jyota na chora Krodha na chora Jyota na chora Satavachane kyun chor diya Rama Nama Japane Japanne kyun chor diya Ram Nam Japanne kyun chor diya Ram Nama Japanne kyun chor diya. Tell me, O mind, why have you given up chanting the name of the Lord? You flatter the millionaire, but you forget to worship Ram, who owns the entire universes. When will you give up this folly and give yourself entirely to Ram, the Lord of the universe? Well, does that sound like the devotion of non-separation to you? Some people just want to express it in a song. That's good enough. The thing about songs in India, though, is that the lyrics are much more profound than you'll find on the radio in the West. They won't open their mouth if they don't have something worthwhile saying that will benefit humanity and be for their highest good. So I went to India when I was in my 20s. I learned a couple hundred songs, came back, started singing them for my teacher. And when I started, he said, if you sing these songs of this tradition, you will be enlightened. But, he said, never sing them for people. Sing them for the Lord. So, following along the instructions of his great ideal, Swami Vivekananda, who told people, God is not a personality, God is a principle. So there again, you make the distinction through your viveka, through your discrimination of what's real and what's non-real, what's essential and what's non-essential. You separate the wheat from the chaff. And then you live in clarity. You've taken off your glasses and you've cleaned them, you put them back on, that's your intellect, and you see everything as it is, perfectly. If it's good, you see it good. If it's evil, you see it evil. If it's mixed, you see it mixed. There's nothing unknown to you. No admixtures allowed. So no compromise is allowed. You just see it as it is. So when a seer like that looks at nature, he says, transcended. It's not beautiful, it's horrible. Or it's a combination of horrible and beautiful. It's mayic. But basically it changes all the time. I can't rely on it. Christ told his devotees the same thing. Where did we go wrong as Christians? That we don't understand that birds have nests, foxes have holes, but you have no place to lay your head here. That you should know that you cannot build your house on sand, you have to build it on bedrock. Sand is atomic particles, changing at a billionth of a second. These truths are as good as gold, and they're as good now as they were 2,000 years ago, or in Buddha's case, 2,500 years ago, or in Krishna's case, millennia ago, many millennia ago. They ring true because they are true, and truth is eternal. It's not subject to time, passage of time. You see, as in this kind of concept of time. I'll come back to this. This kind of concept of time. One celestial year is 320 human years. 1,200 celestial years is a Mahayuga. 71 Mahayugas is one Manvantara. 4,320,000,000 year cycles, or 14 Manvantaras, are one Kalpa, and that's one day of Lord Brahma. 100 of those Kalpas is a lifetime of Lord Brahma. And beyond that is Shivakala, the witness of all time. So when you get out of the river of time, or you get out of the river of space, because here's how you would look at it in terms of space, the ego is posited right in the Bhutakasha. That's the space of objects. The space of objects is this little Russian doll here whose name is Gross. human bodies, animals, insects, plants, microorganisms, planets, ether, air, fire, water, earth, objects, atoms, molecules, and much, much more, all contained inside of the Bhuta Akasha. The word Akasha is a word we don't have any equivalent in English for. It means space, yes, like ether. But inside of this ether, or covering this ether, there are 4 other ethers at least that the ancient seers, we're talking again back to Lord Vasishta's time, millennia before Lord Buddha, knew about. They knew about the prana, not just prana that was flowing through your nerves, right? I mean, because you can't even see that, can you? Carrying nutrients, blood, and all that. Yes, you can see that, but you can't see the energy that's carrying. And it's carrying it through nerves. But if you were to take that and step back from it, you'd see a whole nervous system connected to these 7 chakras through which a subtler energy is flowing called psychic prana. And if you were to examine all of those little nadis, all of those little nerves and their nerve endings, you'd see they'd be ending up in these akashas. And you'd see souls flowing along them when they leave the body. If you could somehow imagine that as a sort of hologram I could project, then this human body would be sort of a template, a sort of a suggestion of the infinite nature of spiritual passageways that flow inward. Not just rivers and tributaries and wind currents and tides and trees and outward nadis, but inward nadis. These are where souls go when they die, when they experience the illusion of death. This is where they go. Indians known about this forever. We're still asking, what happens to a soul after it dies? Well, number 1, it doesn't die. And number 2, if it believes in the illusion of death, then it courses along these different passageways and goes to these different atmospheres. They're called akashas. Akasha of matter, akasha of energy, akasha of mind, intellect, and akasha of spirit, if you could forgive the term, because it's not really there's no particles there anymore. The only way we could really understand it is this is made of physical particles, and this is made of energy particles, and this is made of subtler particles, and this is made of intelligent particles, and this has no particles. Sri Ramakrishna tried to tell us that. You just drop a sugar cube in a cup of hot tea and watch it. Breaks into chunks, then into portions, finally into granules, then it disappears, you see. So the sugar cube is actually telling you, we teach this to our SRV children at spiritual classes. The sugar cube is actually telling you there that I dissolve, you see. Everything dissolves. Everything is soluble back into its essence. If a scientist looks at a block of ice and watches it turn to water, and then watches the water turn to vapor, and then the vapor disappear into ether, why should he stop there? Why isn't the ether going to disappear into another ether? And there you will find the thought block of ice. You'll find the thought flow of water. You'll find the thought gas, vapor. And pretty soon you'll be on the trail of the Word. In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. But you have to track it, like a trail of breadcrumbs, back into yourself, to the essence. You do this through meditation. First you do it through understanding the cosmology. Samkhya is the greatest teaching. Yoga is the greatest power. After Sri Krishna taught him that, that's what they said. I know the cosmic principles now. And this should be forever. When you know the cosmic principles in one of these darshanas like Samkhya, that becomes your possession for as many times as you're going to be born. So the next time you come out of the womb, you have a mental asana, right? You have a samskar, you have a canyon wall you can call and get something back from. And that's called Adhyatma Vidya asana. So I know all the cosmic principles. I learned them before from my teacher. And if you can do that, then you remember your past lifetime. That's called Smriti Bedu. I have a causal memory of my past lifetimes, but I haven't uncovered them yet. But Krishna did in the Gita, and he told Arjuna so. I've lived many lifetimes, Arjuna, and so have you, but I know all mine, and you haven't remembered yours yet. Time to recollect. Time to waken up. Wake up and smell the kali. You see? Well, she thought it was funny anyway. Waking up to your own consciousness. See. Oh, sleeper, awake, you must, you must. As the name of one song in India, which they describe that. So, time, space, causality, you don't look at them in linear terms in Vedanta. You don't look at them in terms of beginnings, middles, and endings. You look at them all as eternal. That's a precious teaching. This is a precious gift of the Dharma to all seekers of truth. Everything is eternal, but there's the sentient eternal, and then there's the insentient eternal. The insentient eternal is meant to be the bondslave of the sentient eternal, not the other way around. You know where I'm going with this, I hope. You are never supposed to be the slave of nature in any way, because nature has come out of you, out of your thought process, traced all the way back to the Word. It's all come out of the great mind. And all minds are a part of that great mind. And in fact, when you remove these kinds of sublations, then you will be posited straight in the great mind. The cosmic mind will be yours. You'll share the same thoughts as the cosmic mind. Just like you're sharing my thoughts right now. You'll sit with Krishna, you'll sit with Christ, you'll sit with Buddha, and you'll share the same thoughts. You'll be Samipya, Sayujya, Salokya, and Sarupya. You'll have the same form as Christ, Buddha, and Krishna. You'll live in the same land, in the same realm as Christ, Buddha, and Krishna. And you'll be beloved, Samipya, of Christ, Buddha, and Krishna. And let me tell you, a son of a king never wants for anything. If you become beloved of souls like that, your transmigratory process is over. The illusion of death is over. Eternal life is upon you. Why else do you think their last name is Ananda? They've been plunged into bliss by these very thoughts. So, lift the mind up out of those old conventional ways of thinking. Get into the Jnana Yoga. Clarify the process. Cosmology first, then philosophy, and then spirituality. And through spirituality, you'll learn what's sempiternal, the everlasting, called I and my Father are one, this self is Brahman, and so forth. Those will be your mantras. I asked one illumined soul once, what's your mantra? And he said, I don't have a mantra, I only have a Mahavakya. A great saying. So I don't say, save me anymore. See. In the West, the savior, is the avatar is a savior, right? But on the Eastern horizon, the avatar never was a savior. He was an exemplar. You never wiped your boots on your avatar. You wiped your shoes on the welcome mat of the avatar. You used him as an example to become just exactly like him or her. And that's the problem with conventional religion. It's become weak, become dependent. It's become superstitious. It's believing in impossible, untenable assumptions like original sin and seven-day creation theory, taking them literally. If you take them symbolically, I don't have any problem with them. You can use them for fodder for philosophy, but you can't take them literally. They'll lead your religion into superstition and the people with it. So Vivekananda came and he said, I want religion with an uppercase R to return. The death of superstition, devils, and all that. And Kriya Yogiism and mysticism isn't going to do it. We have to combine the four yogas in such a way that even a baby can digest it. Because, as I said, he knew we were spiritual babies here in the West. Material giants, spiritual babies. So that balance has to shift, you see. Some of the material wealth has to go over to the East, and then some of that wisdom has to come to the West, and try and balance things out. That's the most you can hope for in this world. Because he also told us a good world is non-existent. It's like saying hot ice. What you're trying to achieve here is some sort of balance, a middle way. Golden mean. Someone was writing me about the golden mean from prison the other day. So I hope in this first half of this class I've been able to convey to you some of the intrinsically non-dual nature of the subject matter called ananya bhakti. It's a beautiful blend of sweetest love and most profound wisdom. But it doesn't start on the premise of origins or beginnings or evolution. It doesn't proceed on that. It rests in its own truth, which is eternal and not subject to time, space, or causation. These things are to be understood as layer cakes, as targets. Layer cakes with a target, you see. And when they are, then they become helpful to us. If not, they're about as useful as a water tank during a flood. So thank you kindly for your attentions during this first half. Om Sato Ma Sadgamoya Tamaso Ma Joytir Gamoya Mrichor Ma Amritam Gamoya Abira Bira Mayeti Rudrayate Dakshina Mukam Tenamam Pahinicham Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lead us from darkness to light, from lower truth to higher truth, from the unreal to the real, and from the illusion of death to eternal life. Reach us through and through, O Lord and Mother, with thy sweet and benign presence. Om peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, may peace be unto all. Om Hari Om.
Shri Shri Mata Sharada Devi Jaga Janani Namo Namah. Shri Shri Mata Sharada Devi Jaga Janani Namo Namah. Swarupaya Ramakrishnaya Namo Namah. Deva Devi Swarupaya Shri Ramakrishna